Hey everyone, it's Night Horror here, and today we're going to talk about every single cool thing I got to see at GenCon this year. And spoiler alert, there's a lot. And in fact, there's so much that I'm definitely going to miss some things. I already know. I keep adding to my list and adding to my list, and I know there's a few things I'm going to miss. So if there's something cool that you saw that you think everybody should know about, drop it down in the comments below and we can chat about it there. But we're just going to go ahead and start off here with Arcane Library. These are the makers of the Shadow Dark TTRPG. Kelsey actually has a channel here on YouTube, which is why I'm starting off with this. And they won an Innie this year, which I know probably most people that aren't in the industry don't know about, but it's a really big deal and it's really cool and it's just awesome for them. She was also really nice when I dropped by, and we are going to be reviewing that here on the channel. I also ran into Baron DeRop, who actually just happened to be by the booth at that time. After that, I stopped by the Renegades Game Studio. These are the makers of Vampire the Masquerade, which I have a lot of friends who way back in the day used to play this all the time. They came out with a new edition last year. They've also got Werewolf, they've got a G.I. Joe and a Power Rangers TTRPG as well. All kinds of stuff from Renegade. It's a pretty big company, but they get a lot of products, so go check them out. And then Ghostfire Gaming, another group that has a presence here on YouTube. A lot of people think Ghostfire is a lot bigger company than it is. I think it's still only like 10 or 11 people, maybe even less than that. But those guys are really great. You would know them from Grim Hollow, which is a dark fantasy setting for 5e. They recently came out with Twisted Taverns, which is just a whole bunch of taverns you can drop into your setting. And then they have Stibble's Codex of Companions and a bunch of other stuff. So those guys are really nice. Looking forward to getting to review some of their material. All right, a couple of YouTubers out of the way. Let's talk about the Italians. So there's a great showing from a lot of Italian creators, and we got a whole list here. So Two Little Mice. This was one of my personal favorites. These are the guys who made Outgunned, which also won an Innie, and I got to chat with them for a while. I'm actually most interested in, they have a campaign setting and world called Household. This is a TTRPG with fairies and bogwarts, all European fairy tales, and their tagline was the world's smallest RPG, because you're playing as little creatures. My wife is absolutely going to love this. I got to thumb through the book, talk to them for a little bit, really love what they're doing over there. I expect great things from Two Little Mice moving forward. And right beside them, in a very different genre, was Tin Hat Games. Again, another Italian company. They have the true OSR. That's right, obsolete shitty rules. No, this whole adventure that they have here is hilarious. I can't wait to review it. I can't wait to play it. And it pits the GM against the players. Basically all the tropes, all the bad things from D&D that we've had over the years is in this book, and in a funny and humorous way. I love what they're doing. Their other product that they were showing off at the show was Xenoscape, and this is quite different. So this is a no human setting, and I absolutely loved it. It's not 5e. It actually has its own thing where when you're making a character, you're really making your own species. So you might be a plant-based species. You might be a virus that just infects other people. All kinds of really cool stuff. Obviously a little bit of dark theme in there, but this looks amazing. And, for people that are looking for that very non-Tolkien-esque fantasy, I think there's some really cool stuff in Xenoscape. And then, of course, Need It Games, the makers of Fabula Ultima. So I believe these guys are actually a distributor in Italy, but they've started making their own games. So they've got a couple others. The Breach is another one of the products. It's a horror sci-fi, I believe, set on the moon. And then the new thing I saw this year was Terror Target Gemini. I think they have some other things as well as some expansions for Fabula Ultima, but great things coming from them. And then there was Asus Games, who had Unglorious. Unglorious, you play as adventurers who have failed their mission and you have died while questing. But even in Undeath, you seek to once again become the adventurer that you're really, truly meant to be. I love how so many of these Italian companies have really different thoughts on gaming and have their own unique idea. It's not simply copying everything that's Tolkien-esque, and it looks like some really great products coming out of Italy. Oh, and then they also had Sweet Cherry Pie, which is a pastry-based game that kind of feels like Pokemon. Love to take more look at this. It looks really fun, looks really cute. Taking a break from some of the Italians, there's also Metis Media, which I believe is a Turkish-based company. They have several historic fantasy settings. One is Istanbul, I believe they have Jerusalem, the Silk Road, which again, these are all historical things. They have a little section in there which tells you they took some heroes and some people from real history that were a few hundred years out of place, and they let you know what they've moved around, but largely historically based. And there's a little bit of undead and some other fantasy stuff thrown in there. I believe some of their stuff was even on the Crusades, and it's always great to see companies that from outside the US coming to Gen Con. And then moving back to the Italians, because there was a huge Italian representation here, the Mana Project Studio. So these guys have Nightfell, which is a horror fantasy 5e based setting, and then the official Cowboy Bebop, which is an anime for those who don't know, 5e setting as well, and then Journey to Ragnarok, an adventure and setting for 5e. And then a product that I'm actually reading through right now to do a review on is by Beach House Games. They are doing Start Here, an introductory RPG. So this is a very small company. However, they have been in the gaming industry industry for a very long time. The lead game designer actually is one of the people that worked on Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We chat a little bit. We talked about THAC0. He has said he is a THAC0 defender, but here he's bringing us a very simplified introductory RPG book, or actually a handful of books, and we're going to be walking through those. Very excited to be reviewing a product from those guys because I think it's going to be great. And of course, we're always interested in getting more people into TTRPGs. I also got a chance to check out quite a few products from Brotherwise Games. So these guys historically have made a lot of board games, but they're actually coming out with a Stormlight RPG, and it's actually going to be the entire Cosmere. So all of the worlds of Brandon Sanderson are going to be brought to a TTRPG setting. They just announced this, I believe, yesterday at time of recording, and the Kickstarter is going live either today or tomorrow. Really excited to be able to check this out. But they also have some really cool board games, including Adulthood and Mistborn. Mistborn being another product from Brandon Sanderson, or from his world rather, and then Adulthood, which looked really interesting, and I got to sit down and play a little bit. Just a short demo. Looks really fun. I love that you can actually be a game designer in the game, and you can also be a content creator. So I just thought that was really fun. You know I'm going to love that kind of thing. I got to stop by again for the folks at Mage Hand Press. Mike over there at Mage Hand Press makes a ton of great content. Amazing art. I absolutely love it. Dark Matter is one of their major things. It's a sci-fi setting for 5e. All of their products, by the way, are for 5e. The Book of Mimics, I've got that. I've been reading through it. Really fun how you can have mimic characters, you can have mimic items, mimic gear, all kinds of stuff, everything with mimics. And the book is definitely not a mimic. I have that on good authority that the book is indeed not a mimic. Also fantastic felines and Spire of Secrets. And while we're talking about some game companies we've already talked about a bit on this channel, or that you guys might know about, got to drop by Tales of the Valiant and see if I could get a little bit of information from them. They didn't tell me anything that you guys don't know, but I will say that I did gain some information. One of the things I said to them is, hey, I hear from a lot of people in my comment section saying, hey, Tales of the Valiant, the player's handbook is great, but I want some of these other classes and subclasses that you've had from your other materials, are you going to bring that in? And they said, we've heard that too. And maybe I'm reading a bit into tea leaves here, but generally speaking, when these companies have heard the same thing, they want to make a product that you guys want to buy. So I think we'll absolutely see something like that. I also think that we'll probably see something about Ragnarok. I talked about this when I talked about Tales of the Valiant in the review. I don't have any real new information, but I do feel like those things are even more confirmed, at least in my mind, but that's not officially from the company. But all the things you want to see from Tales of the Valiant, I think that they're working on it. That's my TLDR on my conversation with them. There's also AAW Games. These guys make a ton, and I mean absolute ton of Underdark material, or I believe Underworld, so it's non-copyrighted. So these guys have done a 1st through 20th level adventure all in the Underdark. They got a new spelunking book made by someone who's actually been spelunking, and it actually does it as a hobby, which is really cool. I'm someone who does a lot of hiking, a lot of outdoor stuff, and whenever I read rules in books that don't really fulfill on the promise of being realistic, or at least having some basis in realism, and they don't really make sense, it really frustrates me. So I think that's really cool that one of the lead writers is someone who does spelunking, which is perfect for the Underdark setting. And with all of their other Underdark material, I mean, Ed Greenwood actually wrote a whole endorsement of their Underdark setting, or I'm sorry, their adventure book, which has a setting. It's a ton of material. It's really thick. They've got a ton of stuff. Basically anything with the Underdark, I would definitely check out AAW Games. And then Catalyst Games. These are the makers of Shadowrun, which is a long running setting of somewhat modern day, where people, wake up one day to find that they either have been transformed themselves or their children into elves, dwarves, and everything else. It's kind of a cyberpunk fantasy mashup. It's a really fun setting. So they make that, but they also make a ton of other stuff. Battletech, I have been seeing get a lot of popularity recently. Definitely one that I want to check out, which is wargaming. You have a mech. Basically think Mech Warrior on tabletop, all right? It looks really fun, and it's definitely one I want to try to get into in the near future, and they've got a ton of other products. Also got to drop by and talk to the folks at Modifius. They have come out with quite a few TTRPG products for their 2D20 system, including Dreams and Machines. They've got Fallout 2D20, Star Trek Adventures. I believe they have a card game that's Lower Decks. They've got just a massive amount of games. They've got a Dune board game, a Skyrim board game, lots of TTRPGs, lots of board games, a lot of them of products that you've seen before. I got to interview the owner of Modifius Games last year at GenCon. Really nice guy. Huge gamer, and a lot of great products coming from Modifius. Now back to the creator front, I got to talk to some folks at Cappy Cat Games, and I was like, Cappy Cat Games? games. What is this? And then I got to see their logo and it cracked me up. I absolutely love this. It's a capybara. For those who don't know what a capybara is, hopefully everyone does. It's an animal native to South America. It's a giant rodent and they're really cute. They're really docile. They're really sweet. And it's in a cat outfit. I just absolutely love this. But these guys are bringing some games. They're from Brazil and they had some products they made previously that they're trying to bring to an English market. So really excited about this. They actually gave me some stuff to review and to talk about. And one of the folks involved with the company, one of the lead writers, is actually a YouTuber, but he's usually covering stuff in Portuguese for a Brazilian market. And Skyfall is their game where the idea is that the sky is falling, the world is ending, and everybody is just trying to make the most of it. Fun idea, definitely different. I'm excited to check it out. Then we have Evil Genius Games. So these guys make a ton of RPGs for specific IP. So think Highlander, think He-Man, Rambo, Total Recall, Pacific Rim, Universal Soldier. I'm actually not sure if He-Man's in there. That might be somebody else, but there's a ton in there. So they get licensing to be able to make RPGs for some of these settings, but they make content for that thing and then not holding on to that license because that's expensive. They move on to the next. So if you see something you like from them, yeah, I would either reach out to the company or go ahead and grab it because it might not be there forever. If you want to play a tabletop as a Jaeger fighting kaiju, you might check out Evil Genius Games. Another Italian creator has made Cats: The Conspiracy. This is a TTRPG where you play as a cat, and the whole idea here is that the cats secretly rule the world. Think Secret Life of Pets, right? But cats secretly rule the world, and you get to play as one of these enlightened kitties. And this just looks like a lot of fun. I'm not even that much of a cat person. The other thing about all of these European creators, their artwork is like always top notch. And then Pelgrane Press. These guys are another one of those old school companies, kind of like Start Here. These are some folks that have been around in the TTRPG community for a very long time, and they've worked on a lot of the products that you probably hold near and dear to your heart. And 13th Age being by Robin Heinsoe. These have very non-combat oriented things. They have whole books about, what to do for just like RPing and helping to gamify that a little bit, helping to get people into that mindset and having a great session that doesn't need to involve combat for constant action. Also books on investigation. So, a lot of times it's like, okay, I searched the room, I failed, okay? And it's just like move on. There are entire rule sets for how to run if you want to do sleuthing or, Eberron, the Inquisitor, rules that are really designed for that sort of thing, that investigation where, one of the things I always have to tell newer GMs is like, hey, if failing the roll is going to mess up the campaign, don't have them roll, okay? Just let them have that to move the story along. These are rules where your players can actually explore where failure has meaningful effects, but it doesn't stop or derail the narrative of the campaign. Absolutely excited to be able to check out these books and do more reviews on them and let more people know about the great products they have over there. Then we have Fate of the Norns, Ragnarok. This is a Viking themed TTRPG that instead of using dice uses runes. I actually got to, I checked this out I think a little bit last year, but hopefully we'll have some time this year to actually do a full review and talk about this a bit more. Then we have Columbia Games, so Harnworld. This is a setting that is a little bit Tolkien-esque, but it's just a full campaign setting, something maybe a little bit different than what you're used to. Whole world, map, everything else, all fleshed out for you for a campaign setting, so you can grab ideas from, pull things for your own campaign. Looks really interesting. They also have some board games as well. And then Nations and Cannons. So this is a historical 5e supplement for playing in the 1700s during the American Revolution. I had some questions for these guys because it's a little bit weird for me to think of like, historical fantasy in 5e. I had a lot of questions for them. I think this is a really interesting product. And, and one of the things about this is what, we're not nearly as well informed. I think everybody could say this about history as we would like to be, as we probably should be. And even if, you're playing a little bit of historic fantasy and what have you, although there is no spells or anything else like that, this is actually true history. You're playing with muskets. There's a lot of rules that have been replaced and changed out where you have failure of your various weapons, whole tables on that and stuff like that. A lot of information here. And, getting to play in a setting like this is, I think, could be a great way to spark an interest either in you or maybe in your children to learn more and learn a bit about American history. Which, speaking of, Mythico Studios. So these guys, I believe they're New Jersey based, but they do Mythic Earth, which is indigenous wargaming. So what they're doing is taking some of some history and some of the myths and bring it to a wargaming setting. So I had a couple of friends actually tell me about these guys and tell me to go check them out. These guys' miniatures look amazing. They're amazingly detailed, and they actually worked with folks from those cultures to make something that is, while they do their own spin on it or whatever, it is largely accurate to at least the theme and the ideas of that culture. But the miniatures look amazing. And one of the cool things about this, same with the Nations and Cannons, I just think spurring people's interest to look into this stuff more and learn more about it. I don't think any sort of education or any kind of interest in that thing is a bad thing. And so I absolutely love this. And they also make a great product. And these guys are gamers all day. They actually have a podcast. You can go check them out. But a lot of cool stuff. And I imagine it's going to be a great war game, and I can't wait to try it out. Then on a little bit more of a lighthearted note, we have Ninth Level Games, the makers of Mazes, which is a reference a bit to Mazes and Monsters, an amazing movie, documentary, if you will. You should go check it out with Tom Hanks. I absolutely love it. It's hilarious. If you love the New York Times retro report on, the Satanic Panic, you'll absolutely love Mazes and Monsters. But they have a short game and a pamphlet, Mazes. It looks really fun. A lot of cheeky, funny comments in there. And then they have Kobolds Ate My Baby. So a lot of lightweight, lighthearted games coming from those guys. Green Ronin Publishing. These guys have quite a few games, but the Expanse RPG is the one that mainly sticks out to me. I love those books. I love that setting. It was originally written, that was the whole idea, is that it would be a TTRPG, and I'd love to check that out. Jim Hammer and Sons. These guys make a lot of 5e supplements, Rollock's Guide to Violence and Jim Hammer Grimoire, to name a few, that expand on rules for melee and then obviously magical combat and rules around those things. These guys seem like pretty hardcore gamers, interested to check out their stuff. And then now to go back to that really non-human based fantasy, we have Shard. Shard is a whole entire world as a system and just an amazing amount of lore. I think they've been working on this for like 20 years. The main developer of this product actually grew up in, I believe, Southeast Asia. And what they've done is a setting and world that has no humans in it. Kind of like what we talked about with the Xenos earlier. There are no humans in this world. There are a lot of crystals in this world, and they've replaced metal. So there's no metal at all in this world. Very different. They have their own game system as well. And they also have a diverse group of people working on the game. Really excited to check this out. I got a chance to talk with those guys for quite a while about their product, and I'm really excited to be able to show it off. I've never heard of it before going to GenCon. I saw them last year. I couldn't quite meet up with the people that actually developed the game. I finally got to talk to them this year, so really excited about that. And then last, and certainly I'm missing a few things here, guys, so forgive me, Acheron Games, which is another Italian company. These are the guys that did Bracalonia, the spaghetti fantasy RPG. They also have Lex Arcana, Inferno, a lot of really great games from them. And again, keeping with the theme as we talked about earlier, just amazing art in everything that they do. Love these guys. Can't wait to see them grow over time. Same thing with the folks over at Agate Studios, the makers of Fate Forge. I'll be doing a review on them shortly. These guys are hardcore gamers in it for the love of the game, and they make amazing, amazing products. Honestly, better than 99.99% of the stuff out there on the market. And I'm including things like D&D in that. I'm not saying that stuff is bad. I'm just saying these guys make a premium product, and it's absolutely amazing. Now, finally, moving on to board games. We're going to start off here with Free League. Yes, Free League makes a ton of TTRPGs. Obviously, I've talked about Dragonbane here. They've got a bunch of others, but what I really want to talk about in the very short future is going to be Zone Wars, which is based in the world of Mutant Year Zero. I actually have a copy of this, and I've been reading through the rules and prepping to play in preparation to do a review, so I'm really excited about that. SJ Games has Car Wars. A similar idea. This is another war game in a box. I've seen this a lot more over the past handful of years in the gaming space, where, Warhammer from Games Workshop has largely been the dominant force here. But the problem is, and I think that folks over at Games Workshop and people who are hardcore Warhammer fans, is it's so hard to get people into that market, into the playing war games, because of several things. One, it being so expensive. One, it being so difficult. So these idea of like war game in a box that are reasonably priced, $70, $100 to be able to get someone started, maybe a couple hundred to get everything they need with a handful of other products that we'll talk about here. I'm really interested in this, and I really think that helping get people into a new style of game is really fun, and something I want to be talking about more on this channel moving forward. Obviously, we're still going to be covering mostly TTRPGs, but I'm really excited to be able to start talking more about board games and specifically war games as well. And the third one on the list in this kind of the same idea is Mantic Games. So these guys make a lot of terrain and materials and a handful of other things, but what I'm really interested in from them is Halo Flashpoint, which again is a skirmish style war game, comes in a box, you got everything you need. This was absolutely sold out on their Kickstarter. I think they had a handful of extra copies at the con, but they were going quickly. Really excited to be able to talk about this a bit more. Then we have Archon Studios, which is a Polish game company. They have a couple of products that I just absolutely love. They have Heroes of Might and Magic 3, a board game, and then they also have Master of Orion that they're working on kickstarting. These guys, there wasn't a whole lot there, a whole lot to check out or what have you, but I just love Heroes of Might and Magic as well as Master of Orion. I played this a lot as a kid, so I just thought that was really cool. I just want to mention it here. If you're interested, go check them out. I don't really know anything about the product, although I hear it's good. good. Then taking a step back to something much more lighthearted and not so serious wargaming, we have Featherstone Games. They had two games. They had Dino Sitters and Winter Haven Words. These games look absolutely amazing, and the artist and the game designer were both there. I love the look of these games. I got a brief rundown of the rules and mechanics for a lighter style game. Looks amazing. Absolutely want to check that out, but probably won't be able to do that too much in the near future, unfortunately. Then there's Diverse. These guys made a completely beer-proof game, which I love that. You know, they kickstarted this a number of years ago, and they've added and made a little bit more premium product. Love it. As far as not just having laminated cards, but actually having, you know, various tiles and things like that that are made out of plastic, so that you don't have to worry about getting any kind of spill or anything else. Very much a beer and pretzel style board game. Absolutely love it. Then we have Bellows Intent. They have an Age Contrived, which looks like a AAA quality board game, honestly. I mean, the build quality on this game and my brief rundown of mechanics made me absolutely interested in this. You know, whenever I'm at Gen Con, right now I'm not really able to cover board games because I need to get a backlog. I need to review some of the games I have so that I can talk about it more here on the channel and be able to build up an audience for people that are interested in that sort of things, which I know many of you are. And, you know, I hope to in the future be able to reach out and say, hey, you know, you just came with this new game. I've got an audience for this. I would love to be able to do a review for them. So that's kind of what I'm building towards. But honestly, you know, walking around for 4 days at Gen Con, I was not able to see by any means everything that was there. And what I mean is that there are people that I know were there and I never saw their booth. And I probably walked by it, but there's just absolutely a ton there. I spend every single hour, 4 days a week, 8 hours of the day on the floor at Gen Con, just walking around, and I'm still not able to see everything. So with these various board games, I only picked out a handful that I got to check out that I thought really looked interesting. Don't read too much into that. There are probably plenty of these that I've missed because, again, board games haven't been my focus because we're not doing that much on the channel just yet. Hopefully that'll be changing in the very near future. Then we have Doterra Games. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I'm probably not. Phantom Epoch looks really interesting. Steamforge Games. Got to chat with these guys, actually interview one of the owners, Matt Hart, last year at Gen Con. Matt is a hardcore gamer and has been for a long time, and I really feel like he's in it for the love of the game. So these guys are getting into more RPGs. They have war games. They've historically, mostly what I've seen their product line be, is that they've taken digital games that you really love, like Monster Hunter World and all that kind of stuff, and then made a board game version of this. Now, there was certainly some missteps with the Dark Souls RPG a couple of years ago. I actually had a chance to ask Matt about that, which is a very uncomfortable question because it did not come out to their standards, which Matt readily admitted and was like, yeah, we just messed up on that one. But these guys actually own War Machine now, as well as some other really interesting IPs like RuneScape, the RPG, wargaming, RPGs, and board games. Really interested to see what they do. And again, the fact that the owner is a hardcore gamer, which a lot of these companies that I'm talking about, that's why these companies make good products, because the people at the company are gamers, all of them. Got to chat with several people though from Steamforge Games, and I'm really interested to be able to talk about more of their products here on the channel in the near future. And I think that's it. If you liked any of these products, you're interested in them, let me down in the comments below, and hopefully we'll be able to get a review on them on the channel soon. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one.